my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm!
That is currently how me and Eric are feeling recording this.
That's absolutely true.
But this is definitely our first take.
Absolutely. Haven't
Anything
done
else?
any other takes. This is it.
No.
First try.
Anything else is fake news.
That's right. All right, everybody. This week's episode is the 520 finale.
Yes, it is. And for today's episode, we are going to be looking at some questions that we got from our viewers. And by viewers, I mean probably the one person that's going to watch this.
Dr. Price himself.
Precisely. You ready to just jump in?
I am absolutely ready to jump in.
Okay. And I can just read off the first question. The first part is going to be an overview of personal beliefs about personality. Revisit what you wrote in the first paper of this course. Then speak to some of the things that you have learned in this class, including what have you learned about personality development through taking this course? Have any of your beliefs changed since the first paper? Why or why not? And how do you think your beliefs about personality inform your theoretical model of counseling? And we should also be considering to make this section personal. Can you share any relevant experience with your audience that led you to have these beliefs?
So let's break that down piece by piece. Do you want to start or do you want me to?
Go ahead.
All right. So kind of thinking about where I was at the beginning of class, I was so lost, I feel like. If you remember at the beginning of class, we did that thing where Dr. Price had us stand up if we thought that personality came before thought or thought came before personality. And I sat while everybody else stood up. And then like 2 minutes later, after everybody had been standing up, I finally stood up. Like I was just confused. I was lost. I didn't know what to think. I was very confused about all of it.
But it also seemed like you wanted to offer just like maybe a counter argument to what everyone was saying, spice it up a little bit.
That's true. You know? I do love a good counter argument.
You do. You love insinuating a little chaos.
Yeah, that's right. Like, you're gonna tell me to stand up? I'll stand up when I want to. But I think, especially after looking over my first paper that we wrote for this class, like most of the paragraphs that I wrote, I started off by saying, this belief I just barely formed. Or like this belief, I didn't believe this until like 2 months ago. Like I'm very much like I was still in the process of learning all of this, especially since coming to grad school. Like I'm just figuring it out as I go. And since joining this class and like taking this class, it's just expanded so much because this kind of like set the framework. It set like the structure, the foundation for like figuring out these theories, and then it allowed me to like step forward into the theories I really wanted to learn about.
Yeah, it seems like you're starting to feel like you have direction now.
Oh, absolutely. Honestly, not until like a week ago, but everybody goes at their own pace. So I'm feeling more confident, especially as things are wrapping up.
And we didn't learn all the theories until just a week ago. So
that's true.
You know what you're working with now. I looked over the first paper, and a big argument in that paper was that personality is heavily influenced by environment. There are maybe some like biological components to it where like hormones and brain chemistry might impact the way that you behave. But for the most part, it's how you grew up and what you grew up around. And I feel like throughout the semester, everything we learned just kind of confirmed that. I mean, every week we reviewed a different theorist, and the biggest similarity that they had is that a lot of their theories stemmed from their own experiences, stemmed from their childhood, stemmed from like how they were raised, things like that, their experiences growing up. So it just kind of confirmed that.
You want to know something crazy though?
What's up?
At the beginning of the semester, I also was like a nature hater. I was like, it's all nurture, baby. It's all like how you're raised. It's all that. And then I actually talked to my mom for like the first time since coming out here to California. And it was for a class assignment, but I talked to her about what I was like as a kid. And I couldn't believe the similarities between like me now and me as a kid, and I was like, okay, maybe this whole nature thing has something going for it. Maybe like predisposition makes sense. So like, I think coming into the semester, I had a very like black and white idea of nurture versus nature, whereas now I kind of accept that maybe there is a little bit of predisposition. Maybe there is a lot more to do with like genetics and all that stuff, even though I definitely still think like nurture and how you're raised has more to do with it.
Right, yeah. And to your point, I think like nature still only plays a limited role in it. Like, thinking about clothes, you have your undershirt, you have whatever like essential layers you have underneath, but your personality is what you wear on a day-to-day basis. What are you stepping out with, right?
That was a fire metaphor. I like that a lot.
Thank you.
That's really good.
I was really hoping it was good because I got really insecure.
Hey, that's okay. It was really fire. I like that a lot.
Thank you. I think a personal experience recently is just all this reflection that we're doing. I mean, through the whole school year, we've been talking about family history and whatnot. And I really just think about like the different routes that my life could have took and the different person that I could have been had certain things not happen, had this happen at this time. Like, it really comes down to like the decisions that I've made throughout life and maybe the decisions that everyone else makes throughout life. There's probably multiple versions of ourselves, and we just so happen to be in this version of ourselves. That's getting very existential. I'm trying not
I was
to
going to
take
say,
it there. Yeah.
trust me, I'm right there with you. Ever since joining this program, like that's been something heavy on my mind, like the little decisions that you can make that'll like completely change your life and like how we got here. It's crazy to think about. I mean, just think about how every single person that came into this program, imposter syndrome. Every single one of us. It's like we're not unique. All of us feel like baffled that we made it here, and it's because like there's so many little things that go into it. There's so many idiosyncrasies that come into like getting into grad school, and we're here. We made it. And now we have to think about that.
Imposter syndrome, I mean, we could say that comes from like systematic structures, but I get what you're saying.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we'll save that for later.
We'll save that for later for sure. Do you feel like throughout the semester your ideas on personality have changed? Or like maybe, because like for me, I almost felt like each week we talked about a new theory, my ideas changed, you know? Like, I mean, I think all theories are so valid, you know, and like each one is for a different person. And, you know, theories have so much to do with like who you are as a therapist and not necessarily if it's right or wrong. It's all about how you use it. It's all about how you connect with your clients. So I definitely felt like each week that went by, I was like thinking about different ways I could use these theories, and I could just, it wasn't until the end and I really took a step back and looked at all of them that I was like, okay, this is the one that fits best for me. But like, I feel like my ideas about it and about personality was always changing.
Yeah, I mean, if we're so exposed to like a bunch of different approaches each and every week, like there's so much subjectivity to it, and I feel like that's kind of what I got from it. Like, I would say my ideas around personality didn't change that much. If anything, they got like those ideas got emphasized and got strengthened, and I think it's around the concept of like subjectivity when it comes to building personality. Despite like maybe not liking certain theories so much, it was interesting to see different people's like interpretations of how we gain personality, how we go about life, like what are the set rules. And it just kind of came down to like, how do you subjectively experience life? And your personality is a reflection of that.
Right,
you know?
absolutely.
So it's with no doubt that, you know, you might not like some, but you might really like others. You know what I mean? It just kind of comes down to what fits you the best.
Absolutely. And kind of like digging more into like personal life, like why do you think, we haven't really talked too much about the theories that we are leaning more towards, but like why do you think that you are thinking about personality the way you are, like based off of like how you grew up? And if you want to like kind of sit with that question for a second, I can kind of take the lead. But like, I feel like for me growing up, especially because of like nurture versus nature, you know, like I always had to like figure stuff out myself. I had to like, you know, learn how to do things. I moved away from my dad's house when I was like 13, moved in with my mom, and it was like the support systems that were around me changed like a 180. Mm-hmm. And like as soon as I moved in with my mom and like had that support system, I started succeeding in school. Like when I lived with my dad, I was getting like D's and F's, and I moved in with my mom and I was a straight A student. And like I started caring. I started, you know, just working harder because I had the support system around me to do that. And then, you know, I was able to just completely change my life based off of like who was around me, who was nurturing, what kind of nurturing I was getting. Yeah. So that definitely like influenced me heavily about like personality. That's why I like lean more towards like humanistic, because like as soon as I was given that love and that space, I thrived.
Yeah, I think you speak to like a lot of truth in how much your environment affects you and what kind of support system you have. You kind of spoke about how like moving in with your mom, like you started to improve academically and just started to improve overall, and it seems like you're attributing that to having a stronger support system overall. I think I can definitely attest to that too, just because I've been in very many different areas in my life, and the support systems have looked drastically different. Childhood home sucked. There was just like so many different issues that came with like living in a low income area, living in a low income household. There's just like a bunch of different challenges, drug addiction, violence, so on and so forth. And it's funny because when I visit my little cousins today, they get money out of like Easter eggs, and they're no older than like 11, right? And they're like, "Oh yeah, this is going to my college fund." And I'm like,
yeah.
If I got $5 back then,
bro, I'm going straight to the super. Yeah, I'll get some like, candy, dog.
That is dinner.
Yeah, like I'm using that to get like, food.
Right. And I'm really glad that they have a lot better of a support system as they grow older. But also just like I would say one of the biggest changes in environment is when I left for undergrad. I moved to San Francisco, and still within California, but as we know, California is gigantic.
Humongous.
Yeah. And even just moving to there, the culture shock was like, whoa, you know, because I was living in basically in an urban environment after living in the suburbs for so long. And there was a lot about daily life that had changed for me and that was influence for me. And I saw it in all my friends around me too. I had a friend that was stationed in the Air Force, so he was going around to like different flyover states. I had a friend that went to school in Santa Barbara, and then I had friends that stayed back home. And it's just so clear to see like how their personality was affected by either moving away, being in a different environment, or just sticking back, right? So I think environment does play like the majority role of who you become.
Oh, absolutely. All right, we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will be talking about our personal theories, what we were drawn to during class, and then after that, we'll be getting into a little demonstration from each of us. All right.
Exciting.
Are you struggling with conflicting emotions? Feeling overwhelmed by inner turmoil? Internal Family Systems Therapy offers a compassionate approach to inner healing. Our skilled therapists provide a safe space for you to explore the different parts of yourself, uncovering the wisdom and healing that resides within.
IFS helped me understand and heal the wounded parts of myself, leading to greater inner peace and self-acceptance.
Through IFS, I've learned to cultivate a deeper connection with myself and navigate life's challenges with more clarity and resilience.
By embracing and integrating your internal family, you'll cultivate greater self-awareness, resilience, and authenticity. Take the first step towards inner peace and wholeness today.
So,
Welcome back from the break.
we
Next.
are now moving into part 2.
We are going to be talking about who we are as therapists, how we're going to be wanting to use these theories we've been talking about for the whole semester, and just kind of like what we've been drawn to.
Yeah. I think it would be fun if we said, because we've already talked about this, but our theoretical base on 3.
On 3?
Ready?
All right,
1,
1, 2, 3.
Narrative
Gestalt.
therapy.
Mm.
Damn. Never mind.
Yeah, no, that was not what you thought it was going to be.
It makes sense, though.
I'm a multifaceted individual. What can I say? Always changing.
That's the Gemini.
That's the Gemini.
That's the Gemini.
All right, well, you thought I'd pick narrative, but I do plan on using narrative within my therapy, at least a little bit, but definitely been pulled a lot towards Gestalt within the last couple weeks for sure.
Okay. Did you want to start off?
Sure. So I've been thinking about this a lot this last week, just because like things are wrapping up. We're trying to nail down at least what we want to like start looking into.
Yeah.
So I actually took one of those little theory quizzes.
Ooh.
And
Okay.
my top ones were multicultural, person-centered, integrative therapy, feminist. And I was like, those are all things that should just be incorporated into therapy.
Right.
So like those 4, like super important. I definitely like, I vibe with them for a reason, and like definitely going to be incorporating those into my therapy because multiculturalism and like liberation psychology is super important to me. Mm-hmm. Recognizing oppression that marginalized communities experience is like, I mean, that's how you create a safe space for people. That's how you can use person-centered therapy. Like you're considering what people are going through, not just hearing what they have to say, you know? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But then beyond that, number 1, Gestalt.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's what I'm planning on rolling with. And like after talking to some of my professors, like I think Gestalt is the way to go for me because like I love the person-centered. I love like the humanistic ideals. I love holism. I love being able to both listen to my client and challenge them. I like, because I don't know, I think it shouldn't be so cut and dry. I should be able to challenge them. Like they might not be able to challenge themselves. And I also just love that there's so many tools that Gestalt therapists can use. Not even that I necessarily plan on like using all of them, or like I'm okay with not using them, but like they're powerful tools. They can definitely be used in so many different ways, and like I'm drawn to having the tools and everything that I need to make a person feel like they're whole. And then also parts work. Love parts work.
Yeah. Parts work. So much fun.
It's powerful, dude. It is powerful
Very
stuff.
powerful. For those watching at home, Dr. Price, Eric has been on a Gestalt bender.
Bender. Okay, interesting.
And I actually like what you were saying about Gestalt. I feel like that really embodies like what a modern Gestalt therapist is, right?
I'm gonna reel you in. You're gonna be a Gestalt therapist by the end of this podcast. I swear.
I mean, I do plan on using Gestalt for sure because like speaking on the here and now is just something we should be doing regardless, right? I feel like that's the piece of Gestalt that should be in anyone's therapy is like addressing what the person is feeling in the moment, like in the counseling room. I feel like it brings in a sense of like grounding for people.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And I totally agree with you on multicultural feminist. Like, honestly, if you're coming into this field, it's very hard not to come with at least some form of a social justice lens.
Oh,
like
absolutely.
You just have to care about other people.
Yeah, we're basically trained to be advocates.
Exactly.
From like day one, since high school.
Exactly. And we can't speak for like other programs because ours is like with a focus in social justice, but also like you can't come into this field and just expect to just work a brain dead 9 to 5 Right.
You got to be conscious about these things. You have
Yeah.
to know what people are going through, and what people are going through is oppression. What people are going through is marginalization. You got to be able to sit with those things.
Yeah.
And it's not easy.
Yeah, and you just have to have a genuine care.
Believe it or not.
Yeah, surprise. So my theoretical base, I said, is going to be narrative therapy. And I say narrative therapy, I've been kind of thinking about it. It's not just like my favorite theory, but I also think it's a good base because of how like blank canvas it is. Like claiming that personality isn't real, like reality is not real, you know. But it just provides like a really good canvas of like control. Like you are in control of your own life. And I feel like for a lot of folks, self-empowerment is a very big like lacking area in their lives.
Absolutely.
And I love the idea that narrative therapy gives you back that empowerment and gives you some form of control over your story. After thinking about it, I think narrative therapy does what CBT tries to do in a more like conscious and like forgiving way. Because we've talked about how CBT, if used improperly, is basically just gaslighting.
If used improperly, it can definitely turn into that.
Right. And I feel like for narrative therapy, it's working towards the same goal. Basically, like allowing you to reframe how you think. But I think not only is it more creative, but I think it's more approachable and a little more forgiving. 100% agree with you on IFS. At first, I heard family and I said, nah, not the vibe. It's just like, I heard family and just immediately dissociated. But after actually learning about it, it's so interesting.
It is.
So interesting. And it's so much fun. I think it's a great way of sorting out the issues that you're dealing with. There's no one in this world that's only dealing with one issue, and once that issue is over, it's butterflies and rainbows. No. Most of us have multifaceted challenges that are stacking up on one another. And with family systems, you're able to identify these different parts of you and also kind of like, I wouldn't say isolate them, but give the spotlight to one part over the other in order to like focus in and work with it. And I feel like that is just more of a personal thing that I vibe with, because a lot of my personal issues just kind of stack on top of each other, and I lose a sense of like where to start, basically.
Another thing about IFS is I really like it because you can really incorporate a lot of things in IFS. You can incorporate like seeking out that part that's like a marginalized minority, you know, who struggled with, you know, colorism or classism or what have you. And you can shine a light on that, and you can help that person speak their truth, because so much of what being in a marginalized community is being silenced.
But then beyond that part, you can also look at what is the emotion behind that.
Absolutely.
Being a marginalized individual, is the part of you anger that's interacting with it? Is it guilt? Is it shame? Is it A, B, and C? And you can really dive into the core emotion behind it, which I think is very powerful.
Absolutely.
Also, out of the big three, the last one, existentialism. Love existentialism. I think it provides a great framework for dealing with the objectives of life.
Being a human within the society.
Yes. Not even being a human, being a physical organism on a floating rock.
Yeah.
that part really got
What
me.
a concept.
That is like trauma bonding for me, because
You trauma bonded with existential therapy. I love it.
I feel like the last 6 months I've just had so much existential dread, so much, and so much like anxiety around it. And existentialism, like, I think it provides a safe and professional space to navigate those feelings and navigate those thoughts, and provides a framework for you to like work that out and get more grounded in the subjective experience. So for those days when you're really just spiraling out of control, yeah, I feel like that.
Listen, if there's one thing I love as a future therapist, it's talking about taboo topics within society.
Oh, yeah.
And one of those taboo topics, death.
Yes.
being being an organism on a floating rock.
Yeah.
The simplicity yet complex nature of just being here.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, anything that has to do with talking about those topics that society doesn't want us to talk about, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Exactly. Love it. Love it. I also wanted to bring this up with you. Shout out Devin. I was talking to Devin about this. But psychodynamic, as much as we all collectively don't associate with Freud, we were saying it may also be very good to incorporate within the counseling room at some point, just because in therapy, your childhood is going to be brought up at one point or another. I feel like if you're going to really make progress. And also, everyone knows about Freud, even if you're not within the like realm of psychology or counseling. Everyone knows about libido. Everyone knows about like id, ego, and superego.
I mean, the unconscious mind, that's all
exactly,
him.
like it exactly, yeah. And it's just a very digestible approach.
It is.
So I feel like psychodynamic just sprinkled in every now and then. If someone were to just like start diving into their childhood or like innate drives, XYZ, could be beneficial.
Oh, absolutely. You want to know what one of my irks about learning about all these theories has been?
Go ahead.
Like, psychodynamic and I feel like Gestalt get kind of a bad rap because if you look at Freud, it's like you hear about Freud, you hear about what he's done, you hear about what kind of guy he was, but you don't
look at Fritz.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
you look at Fritz Perls, like they were not great people necessarily. Like they could be aggressive, they could be all these things, but like, what about the people who came after them who like helped develop these theories? Like, there's so much more to these theories than just the guys who made them. And you know, some of my like blocks for me as far as like psychodynamic and Gestalt were like seeing these guys be like the poster childs of them. But if you dig deeper and you kind of like start to understand them more, you can see like why they work, why they're great theories, and why they help people.
And to acknowledge it, the reason why their theories are so great, because of the women in their lives.
Because of the women.
Fritz Perls, his wife gave him most of the ideas. For Freud, his daughter carried on his legacy and like rewrit it better.
They basically said, here's my theory, and then the women in their life said, add a little compassion.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. So we have to attribute it to like not the theorists themselves, but the people that either were in their lives or came after them,
and the people who it's helped.
Exactly.
So one of the bigger questions of this section is, how has your own culture played into why you think the way you do, why you want to use narrative or existential or, you know, your framework that you're thinking of? What kind of goes into that for you?
I'm gonna be real. For existential, religious trauma.
I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah. Exploring just so much with religion and like human creation and whatnot. And call this out for being like somewhat of just like an ignorance is bliss take, but I've gotten to the point where I'm just thinking like human creation probably isn't something that we were built to understand. So I'm not gonna try any further. There probably is some bigger being out there. I'm not gonna put a name or a face to it. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
And then also, I just really love creative writing. And when I heard about narrative therapy, just the word narrative was like, that's mine. But I love the idea of like rewriting your own story.
Absolutely.
And
You want to know a pretty crazy concept I was thinking about the other day that involves narrative therapy?
tell me about it.
D&D therapy. Listen, you make a character based around yourself, or you have like a client. Either this is work in progress, so bear with me. You have your client make a character, right? And then you do group therapy D&D, where you're all just playing as your characters, and you're working through it. And then you're the DM, you're the guide. You're helping these people work out these emotions with these people who they might not be super comfortable with, or like what have you. And like you guys, you're changing your narrative,
And you
in the process.
And you as the dungeon master get the info on your client's background and base the story off of significant events and people within their life.
Call it an intake. They said, what's this intake form? It's a D&D sheet. Fill it out.
I love that idea. That's actually, damn.
Listen, this is what I'm saying. I love it because like you can just like you were saying, narrative is a blank slate. You can really work with it. You can build around it. You can do a lot of things that'll like, get people involved, get people understanding their own narrative better and changing it and working with it.
Oh, for sure. For sure. But what I'm more interested in, what started your Gestalt crave?
That's a great question. That is such a good question.
I know for me, Leah did it.
I mean, if I'm being honest, that's what it is. I mean, coming into the program, I was very like, I didn't take a theories class for undergrad, so I had to take one while we were here. But I didn't know anything about the theories like at all. I knew like psychodynamic because everybody knows about Freud, and that was it.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know anything. So I got into our first class, and it was with Leah. And she told us she was a Gestalt therapist. And I was like, I really rock with Leah. Like, what she's throwing down, I am picking up.
Yeah.
And, like, she did, like, demonstrations in class. She did dream analysis. She did all sorts of stuff. And I just vibed with it.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely, like, what the initial, like, I'll look into this more was for sure. But the reason I was drawn to it, I feel like, it's just... I just feel like it's so understanding. It's so, like, I think I already knew that I wanted to do, like, a humanistic approach or postmodern. Because I think both of them, like, really take into account the person sitting in front of you. And they take into account the multifaceted nature of each individual that's sitting in front of you.
Right.
I think my biggest issue and why I didn't, like, vibe with it earlier is because... like it focused so much on the present, and I didn't get that. I didn't understand it. I feel like I was so focused on my own past and my own like childhood trauma that I was like, oh, it focuses on the present? Like, and that's stupid. Why would I want to do that? Like, I want to focus on the past. I want to dig into it. But like, what they don't tell you is that like, if your client brings up the past, that's you working with them in the present because they're thinking about the past. And you can check in with them, you can ground them, you can, sit with those emotions that they're feeling about their past in the moment. And I think the biggest thing for me is like, I want to sit with those emotions.
Yeah.
I want to be there. I want to recognize that thinking about their past makes them feel guilty, or that it makes them feel shame. It makes them feel fear. And something about Gestalt is like, you have to do that. Like, you don't have another option. Like, that's what being a Gestalt therapist is. You're sitting there with those hard emotions. And if you're a good Gestalt therapist, you're doing that. And that's what I want to be. I want to sit with those emotions. I want to be there with my clients and, like, hear their stories and help them feel those feelings. Because so often people don't get a platform to feel those feelings. And then also, this is a little bit like less so, but it definitely had an impact. But in our pre-practicum course, it seemed like the things that I was drawn most towards, like the practices, was process comments. So like commenting on, you know, the way that they're moving their body, the way that they're experiencing the room.
Yeah.
And then also silence. And I feel like everybody else who I was talking to, they were like, man, silence is so hard. I can't stay quiet. And I'm like, I love it. I love it. I don't want to cut you off. I don't want to cut you off from feeling those emotions. I don't want to cut you off from experiencing that hurt. Because experiencing that hurt is what allows you to move forward.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. And there's like, for Gestalt, there's so much of like calling out the usually unspoken things
Absolutely.
about human connection.
That's
like
a
you were
great
saying,
point.
Body movement, the silence. If you were to say to a Gestalt therapist that you're uncomfortable in the silence, what about that silence is making you uncomfortable?
Yeah, tell me more,
Yeah.
please. No, please. I feel uncomfortable. I know.
Oh man,
It's uncomfortable,
yeah.
and that's what it should be.
Yeah, and also with, like the past and the present, like you were saying, the past is where the issues come from. But where are the issues? In the present.
They're right here.
Yeah, they're with you in the room. Everything hurts. What do you expect from your future clients?
I expect them to hate. I expect them to feel uncomfortable. For me, like okay, maybe not feel uncomfortable. I expect them to feel safe, because I think above all else, I want to be humanistic. I want to be with them. I want to let them know that I'm sitting with them, and these feelings, you might feel uncomfortable with the feelings, but you will not feel uncomfortable with me.
Okay.
So I think what I expect my clients to feel is safe. And that's what I'm going to work on. And like, if my clients ever don't feel safe, I'm doing something wrong, and I will work at it.
To add another layer to that, I think they would feel uncomfortably safe.
Uncomfortably safe. That is a great point, because that is not something that people usually feel.
Yeah. I think I would expect similar things from my clients. Just if they're willing to put in the work and they're willing to come into the therapy room ready to really work things out, they're probably going to be uncomfortable. And that's fine, because this is work. This, like, therapy is work, right?
Work.
It's not just a magical conversation that's going to solve all your problems for you.
As much as we want it to be.
Exactly. You are the one that's doing the work. And but I also expect my future clients to recognize that they've put in that work. I want to make sure that whoever I'm working with, they know that even though I'm the professional, like, in the field, they are the professional of themselves, and they are the ones doing all the work.
Absolutely. That's huge.
Huge, yeah. And leaving the room, that's something that I would want for them to know, especially with narrative as my base and the overarching theme of giving the person back their self-empowerment, giving them the self-empowerment that they came into this room and did the work.
Because they're not going to get better if you do the work for them.
Exactly. If you want someone else to do the work for you, get a life coach. Okay. But yeah, just wanted to touch on that.
Absolutely. That's important.
So we can take a break now.
Yep. And then next we're going to be doing our demonstrations of each of our theories. So
Shoo-ba-doo-bop.
Are you feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or disconnected? Gestalt therapy offers a safe space to explore your emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. Our experienced therapists guide you through a journey of self-awareness, helping you integrate the fragmented parts of yourself into a cohesive whole.
Gestalt therapy helped me embrace my vulnerabilities and reclaim my power.
I feel like I'm finally living authentically thanks to Gestalt therapy.
Embark on a journey of self-discovery and healing with Gestalt therapy. Take the first step towards a more fulfilling life today.
All right, Nick. What are we talking about today?
This actually just happened to me, so a little bit fresh. My brother just texted me, and he asked me if I would co-sign with him on a car, which I'm not going to do because I don't trust him, and I don't want to tank my credit score because he's struggling right now. Like that's just one of my principles. Like I don't give family money, and I don't co-sign on shit with family. So
Okay. So it sounds like there's a little bit of anxiety
oh, absolutely.
from the idea of like co-signing with your brother and kind of what it would do for your credit as well.
Right.
And also seems like there's a little bit of like personal morals and rules tied in there of like family doesn't get any of my money.
Very true. When he texted me, I was very like conflicted because like he's going through a divorce right now. Like he's struggling. Like, his credit is tanking because he's going through a divorce right now. And so like on one hand, I really want to help him, but like there's just nothing that could get me to do that. So I feel crummy because he asked and I said no. But also like I feel confident in my decision that was the best choice to make.
Got it. Okay. So there is some confliction in there. And I'm wondering if you could elaborate a little bit on that and kind of give some background on like that confliction, go a little bit deeper with that.
Sure. As far as the confliction goes, like it's kind of upsetting because like I moved out of my dad's house when I was 13 and that's where my brother lives. So like from 13 to like 21, I like barely talked to him. And then, we like talked every now and again, but not very much. But then I started to try and make an effort to, hang out with him more and try and be more present in like as a brother. And then he started going through this divorce. And then he started like asking me for money and shit. So now it's like I'm regretting trying to get close to him because that opened up the door for him to feel comfortable asking me for money. But also I want him to feel comfortable asking me for money because I want to be there for him and I want to help him. But maybe not money wise, maybe just like with other things like getting his GED and stuff like that.
I want to kind of circle back to when you were mentioning that regret. And I kind of want you to just take a second to kind of like visualize that part of yourself. Sit with that feeling a little bit. And I'm wondering if it's okay for us to invite that feeling of regret here with us.
Sure.
Okay. So talk a little bit about this feeling of regret and your history with it.
Sure. I definitely have a very extensive history with it. Like I chose to move out of my dad's house when I was 13. I didn't necessarily regret it, but I regretted a lot of smaller aspects of it. Like I regret distancing myself from my siblings, although I know it's what was best for me. I regret just like surrounding my family mostly. Like I have regret surrounds a lot of what I think about when I think about my family. I distance myself from them a lot, like historically. It's something that I do and it's something that has helped me achieve in life. So it's not something making the decision to distance myself. I don't regret it, but I do regret not being around them more.
So not only does it seem like this piece of you that's regretful has been around for a very long time, but it's also very multifaceted. It feels regret almost like on both sides of the argument of you regret getting involved with family, but also you regret retracting from family. And there's a lot of compiled components into there.
Yeah, it's almost like no matter what decision I chose, I was going to regret it in one way or
Mm, okay. Okay. It seems like that regret piece is what's really causing a lot of internal conflict for you.
Yeah, and like, I mean, typically I would say like no, like regret doesn't show up very often in my life, but definitely when like family comes back up, or like I start thinking about family, that's when the regret comes in. So it's very centered around my family specifically, because I don't feel like I live with a lot of regrets in my life, except for when it comes to my family.
Mm, okay. Okay. And when you say like you don't have a lot of regrets anywhere else in your life, um, where does that pertain to? Because, as far as I know, you've been around family for a lot of your life, at least like back home in Utah and then coming over here as well. Um, Talk about the other areas where you haven't felt regret.
Well, it's like everything. Like I don't regret marrying Lauren. Like you might think that I would regret marrying Lauren because we got married while we were part of the church, and we got married young because we were part of the church. But I don't regret it at all. Like I never think twice about the fact that we got married at 19 and we could have like gotten to know each other a little bit better before we got married. Like I was very happy with where I was when we got married, and I'm very happy with where we are now. So I think that's a good example of just like, even if like things could have been different, I don't regret things in my everyday life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You don't regret the people or things that are serving you in a positive light.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I agree. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I don't have any regrets with Lauren because things are going well. But I'm sure if I was going through the same thing my brother was with the divorce, I'd have regrets. But I'm still not even so sure about that. Like, I'm very happy with my choices.
Mhm.
But I think maybe regret isn't the right word, but maybe guilt instead when it comes to my family. Like,
Okay.
because I don't regret moving out, and I don't think I live with regrets generally, but like I do definitely feel guilty for moving away, because that meant that these people that are going to be in my life for like the rest of my life, I intentionally distance myself from them, and I continue to do that.
Mhm.
So I feel a lot of guilt towards it.
And as we transition from regret to guilt, I'm wondering if it's still as multifaceted. For example, like in an instance, you feel guilty for not being around family so much, or just like excluding yourself from it. But on the other end, like involving yourself with family, you feel guilty for doing that to yourself.
No, because I generally actually really enjoy hanging out with my family.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I like live in the moment. So like when I'm with them, I definitely like, I don't feel guilty. It's definitely more when I'm like in my own head and when I'm alone that I feel more guilty. So it's less multifaceted. I definitely feel less guilt, and I feel more guilt when I think about the fact that I left.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, we can put it there.
Are you feeling weighed down by the stories you've been told about yourself? Narrative therapy offers a transformative journey of self-discovery and liberation. Our compassionate therapists work alongside you, helping you uncover the strengths, values, and untold stories that shape your identity.
Narrative therapy helped me break free from limiting beliefs and embrace my true self with courage and authenticity.
Through narrative therapy, I reclaimed my voice and reshaped my narrative, finding power to rewrite my stories on my own terms.
Ready to take control of your story? Start your journey to healing and self-discovery with narrative therapy today. Your story deserves to be heard, and we're here to help you rewrite it. Narrative therapy, your path to a brighter future.
Even
Hello.
To start off today, I just kind of want to check in. I wanted to recognize that we are in a little bit of a interesting setup for therapy. You know, got some lights, got some cameras, got some microphones. So I just wanted to check in with you and ask you, like, how are you feeling with everything that's in the room right now?
Fine.
You feeling
I'm
okay?
good.
You're
Yeah.
not feeling anxious about anything?
No, I'm around people that I love.
Okay,
So
perfect.
I'm good.
All right. So what do you want to start with talking about today?
So recently I've been having like just how do I phrase this? A pop up of like internal struggle regarding my social environment. I have these like hits from time to time where I start to think that like no one likes me. I'm not really like that likable as a person, things like that. Just kind of been spiraling with those thoughts a little bit.
So just kind of getting down on yourself and beating yourself up about where you sit socially.
Yeah. And I like, as much as other people like express their interest in me or just like accept me, there's just sometimes where I just get in my head and I just start to like question myself. And I'm curious as to like whether that's a need for validation from others, but
So it sounds like there's kind of one part of you that wants to be like outgoing, being friends with lots of people, putting yourself out there, and then there's another part that's kind of scared of putting yourself out there and being around people and being vulnerable with people.
I wouldn't say like so much putting myself out there with people, more so than the friendships that I already have. Just because I feel like once people get to know me, I'm like not. I don't have the same view of myself, and I think that other people don't think I'm that great of a person once they actually get to know me. But I'm not sure.
Kind of scared of putting those walls down because of what people might think of you.
Yeah, I think so. And I think also like I've had a lot of friendships in the past that just kind of like drizzle out, and we just end up kind of like drifting apart. And a part of me has thought like, what's the point of even like building relationships at that point? If it's just going to ultimately like fizz out. Why am I going to give my 100% into this friendship, or why am I going to break down my barriers for someone if it's just going to lead to us living completely separate lives?
Kind of sounds like in the past you've put your walls down and been hurt, so now your walls are even bigger.
Yeah, I think so. And I think I think now I'm like just overly cautious, not of other people, but just of like building a meaningful relationship with other people. Because again, like it's eventually just going to lead nowhere, and we're going to become strangers one day. And I have this kind of like very, I don't know how you would describe it, but just like not healthy line of thinking when it comes to friendships.
A little bit of fear about just where you land as far as like forming friendships go now.
Yeah. Confusion where I land, but also like not being able to like maintain them. I've had so many like friend groups over the years, and like gotten to know different people, and there's a lot of people that I don't really talk to or keep up with or anything. Um, and that part kind of like hurts the most when you put so much like time and effort into a friendship that isn't reciprocated.
I just want to point out something that I noticed. I noticed that as you're talking about this, and as you're talking about what seems to be a very difficult topic for you in your life, you're keeping a very confident tone, almost like you've thought about this a lot. This is something that's really been present with you in your life for a long time. You've thought about it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm constantly in my head, so it's like just always there. There's no real escaping it unless I'm distracted somehow with other people, with doing an activity or something. But basically, just when I'm like to myself and to my thoughts, these are the things that I think about. Especially like if I just got done with a social interaction and there may not be anything wrong with how the interaction went, but in my head, I'll just take the littlest things and make them and let them make me spiral into thinking that like I'm not a likable person or something, or this friendship isn't going to last, things like that.
It almost sounds like in a way, and like let me know if this doesn't resonate with you, but like in a way, getting close to people almost triggers you and triggers those past feelings of being hurt.
Yeah. Actually, when I start getting close to someone, in my head I'll think like, here we go again. Like, this friendship is going to like ultimately peak somewhere and then just fall off later on.
Kind of preparing yourself for that pain.
Exactly. But also I feel like it's an issue for myself as well. Because I feel like when I just dive headfirst into a friendship, and I really click with someone, then it's almost like puppy love, but for friendships. And then afterwards, like it's not like the friendship burns out, but it just really starts to slow down and kind of like mellow out. And I feel like that's where I lose people the most.
So like after that initial puppy love phase, you don't feel the same connection, or like people don't try as hard, so it kind of leads to that same place that you've been before. Yeah,
and that's a cycle that I wouldn't really like to get out of. I'd like to, as messed up as it sounds, like constantly care about those in my life and like in my social circles. And I would like not to base my friendships off of that like early like butterflies in the stomach feeling from meeting new people.
We will stop there.
Are you grappling with questions about life's purpose? Struggling to find meaning in a seemingly chaotic world? Existential therapy offers a profound exploration of these existential questions. Our compassionate therapists provide a supportive space for you to explore the depths of your existence.
Through existential therapy, I discovered that meaning is not found, but created, and I've embarked on a journey of self-discovery and authenticity.
Existential therapy helped me confront my fears and uncertainties, empowering me to embrace life's uncertainties with a newfound sense of freedom and purpose.
Ready to embark on your own journey of self-discovery? Let existential therapy be your compass, guiding you toward a life filled with meaning, purpose, and fulfillment. Existential therapy. Embrace the journey, find your truth. All right, and welcome back. We are going to get straight into part 4 after that role play.
So, for part 4, we're going to be talking about the strengths and limitations of our approach, what the research says about our approaches, and how might you make some modifications for folks that have some cultural differences.
All right. So when I was looking up mine, or as I've researched it, one of the main limitations for Gestalt I was noticing is like the research is limited as far as like what groups it can help. Like there hasn't been a whole lot of research about like how specifically it can affect or help like marginalized communities or people from different backgrounds in like the Western culture.
Yeah.
So for me, I feel like this is kind of easy to answer because during undergrad, my emphasis was I had a double major in psychology and sociology. Like I wanted to learn about people on an individual scale and on like a societal scale. So like I've been super drawn to postmodern approaches. Mm-hmm. So one thing that I was thinking about including in my therapy is like liberation psychology and like multicultural psychology. So for me, like that's going to look like broaching topics that people, like every other thing I've talked about, like taboos of society, things people don't want to talk about, but it's things that we got to talk about so that we feel safe in this room. And so like broaching those topics, recognizing the difference between me and my client and like what things or like issues that might cause between us so that we can move forward, recognizing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think liberation psychology is super important. And also just, again, taking a lot of postmodern methods just into the counseling room with you, making it available in the space, which I'm sure you'll be able to do considering that you want to really run with Gestalt, right? Make it very present within the moment.
Also, if I could say one more thing.
Go ahead.
Like, I hate this limitation because I feel like the whole idea around Gestalt is holism, like having a holistic view of your client.
Okay.
And like, you're not actually having a holistic view of your client if you're not recognizing their multicultural differences.
Right.
So while I will be including these liberation psychology views and like including all this multicultural psychology into my practice,
yeah,
I'm also just going to be a holistic therapist. I'm going to recognize who they are as a person.
Well, okay, so let's strip off the like cultural lens for a second, and in terms of limitations, like what's going to be the limitation just for you and your client developing a therapeutic relationship? Because that's more so what I'm thinking about. Like a lot of times we think of therapy as like dating, basically, until you find the right therapist for you, right? And it's going to be evident that maybe you meet with a client that, your work isn't bad, but the connection just isn't there. You know what I mean? Like the vibe is just kind of off. What do you think about that in terms of limitations?
Well, one thing about liberation psychology that I really vibe with is it doesn't stop in the therapy room. It goes beyond that. You're an activist and you're a voice for this person within the community.
Okay.
So
yeah,
for people who are coming in that like have a completely different culture from me, it's my responsibility to work towards understanding their culture and fighting for any struggles that they might be going through. Mm-hmm. So I think that's like a huge part of being a therapist. Like in the past, it's kind of been that 9 to 5, It's been like, all right, I just got done with my 8 sessions for the day. I'm going home, sitting on the couch, I'm done. But like it isn't like that anymore. I don't think a modern therapist or postmodern therapists want to be like that anymore. We care about, I think, of course, I can't talk for everybody, but like for me specifically, like
I'm going to care about my clients. I'm going to care about like the struggles that they're going through. And I want to be out there being a voice for them. I want to be giving them resources to support them in their lives. And if I'm not vibing with someone, I'm going to do as much as I can to understand why that is. I'm not going to be scared to broach that topic with them. I'm going to figure out why we're not connecting. And if that's like something that we can't get past, then I'm going to have an extensive referral list for people that they might connect with more. Because at the end of the day, it's about getting them the best therapy that they can get.
Right. I like that answer.
Thank you.
Great answer. Yeah, I'm just based off of what you're saying, like with the broaching and wanting to like essentially not beat around the bush on some things. Just thinking about the essence of Gestalt in general, some people might find that a little bit intimidating. You know, maybe like.
Are you telling me that as a white man? I'm just
kidding. You know,
you're telling me I can't just come in here all bravado and tell them exact? No, I recognize
like,
that.
Why aren't you telling me about your problems?
Yeah, what's your problem with me? No, I absolutely understand that, and it's definitely one of those things that, like, of course I've been working on, and I will continue working on. Like,
right.
as a white person, and especially as a white therapist, like I need to recognize my privilege. I need to recognize that within society I hold privilege, and to come into a therapy office where you are getting therapy from a white counselor, like that can be intimidating, that can be scary, and like I'm working with them about what their needs are. Mm-hmm. If they need me to be less directive, like that's kind of the joy of Gestalt therapy. Is like I'll challenge you, but like only what you can handle.
Yeah.
And it's my responsibility to understand what you can handle.
Yeah. And I think another layer that kind of relates to both of us too is being more mask-presenting men in the therapy room. Some folks might not find that, like somewhat uncomfortable to sit with. There may be, there's a good amount of people that have like father issues as well. That might be coming up for them as they're sitting with us talking about feelings. I know I have a male therapist right now, and even with where I'm at, I still have some challenges like receiving either like affirmation, validation, anything from him, and I find myself like shutting it out still. So I think that's definitely something to be like cognizant of as well moving forward for both of us.
That's like one of the main things that I took away from psychodynamic is like countertransference and transference. Yeah. Like you're gonna have issues with your therapist if you have issues with men in general,
right?
And if you have a good therapist who provides you a safe space, like you guys can explore that together.
Right. So I think one of the strengths from my approach, again, the existentialism touches on taboo topics. Narrative therapy gives a lot of leadway, gives a lot of just like room to play with. And I think IFS just ties in with kind of like the creative side of narrative therapy as well. A limitation is probably going to be for folks that are looking for more short-term therapy, because the approaches that I'm applying are pretty lengthy, and also if they're looking for anything science-based. I mean, there is research, but we all know like what the top science-based ones are, right? Or what is considered science-based, of like CBT, the holy grail.
The behavior therapy is right.
Yeah. But that might also just be something to bring up with them, like, what do you really consider a science-based approach? Like, what is it that you're looking for within science? What about the approach being science-based gives you comfort? Is it that, like, it could be that the person tries to, like, intellectualize their feelings, and that might be why they're moving away from other approaches, right? So again, broaching the conversation and bringing it into the room and talking about it. Also, in the previous part, we forgot to talk about EMDR. If you're an up-and-coming therapist, you've probably heard of EMDR, and you want to get certified in it at some point. So just wanted to throw that out there.
I mean, definitely. I feel like I'm going to probably use EMDR in my therapy. But kind of speaking on what you were saying as far as one of your limitations is the time it might take. And I think it's important as therapists to recognize how long it might take to help somebody feel better, you know, and recognizing that certain therapy tactics, they take longer. And that's just, you know, a fact of therapy. So, like, I think for you, it would be super important to recognize that with your client, like first session.
For sure. And like if I'm working the problem is going to present itself whether like if I'm working with like higher end middle class folks that just have the privilege of having all the time in the world to work on their problems versus if I'm working with low income individuals that maybe don't have the same resources nor the same time to be like dedicating to therapy. So definitely acknowledging that and meeting them with where they're at in terms of like time and money, especially since healthcare is a joke in America. But that's a whole other conversation.
And like one thing that you could probably do, especially since one of your limitations might be time, is, you know, kind of what Anna does, is they have a sliding scale for their clients. So you can, you know, if money in particular is an issue for your clients, you can, you know, provide that benefit and that thing that might help them be able to access therapy. Right.
And that's probably something that both of us may implement in our future work, especially since we're still young and still have that fire in us to really work with the folks that need the help.
I hope it never burns out.
Seriously, yeah. Rather than just working with whatever population draws in the most money, right? Who are the people that really need it? And that's going to be most of the marginalized populations.
Right, and I think that's such a big like topic for up and coming counselors is like, how am I going to make enough money to survive in California for us? Like making enough money to make it out here, but also like providing support for the communities that we really want to help.
I mean, honestly, we've talked several times about salary within class. Most of the people that say that you're not going to be making a great amount of money are coming from privileged white folks that they see $70K a year and they look at it like it's $30K a year.
Trust me. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Like,
and I'm like, you have no idea.
Listen, if 13-year-old me could hear that I was going to make $70K in the future, I would have lost it.
Ecstatic, yeah.
Yeah, like, it all depends on perspective. Got to change your narrative.
As far as like research base, it seems that narrative therapy has mostly good results and is very good for folks that are dealing with anxiety, depression. I did see some PTSD as well. And as far as existentialism, sort of the same thing, just gets a little bit more of a bad rap because it's so subjective, and it's again it takes a while, just like narrative therapy. I would say out of all of them, IFS is the new one that's like very up and coming and is the most like research driven out of all of them. But for the most part, they're doing pretty well in the books. In the books.
Listen, I think another thing is like, I'm going to be working to support the people who are doing the research. You know, like, there's so many different, like, I want people to be doing research about how Gestalt therapy can help people from marginalized communities. And I'm going to be going to these events. I'm going to be going to these, like, research symposiums so that I can support them. If I can, like, if I ever get to the place where I can give out grants, like, I'm going to be there.
For sure, yeah. And it's an everlasting thing. We're masters by being eternal students. We are just forever evolving, for sure. And I think it goes without saying that, like, we have to stick to the research, stick with the reception is, and also know just, like, all the different new and up-and-coming methods that are out there, right?
Right, staying on top of it.
Yeah, we might find something that completely alters the way that we approach therapy. Whether it's Gestalt, narrative, whatever it may be. And we definitely have to pay attention to updates within liberation psychology, within postmodern approaches. As advocates, we have to stay in the loop. That's
Absolutely.
part of our job, part of our commitment. Okay, so we are going to take a break. And in part 5, we're just going to give our final thoughts and conclude this bad boy.
All right. As we are wrapping up this week's podcast, I just want to give a special shout out to our sponsors this week: Gestalt therapy, narrative therapy, existential therapy, and internal family systems therapy. All great theories to use for your potential future practice. I also want to give a special shout out to Devin and Cass, who were client number 1 and client number 2 in our ads.
All right, welcome back. We are going to finish this off just giving like final thoughts, where we're currently at with finding our guiding counseling theory, and if we just like missed anything along the way we want to talk about.
I mean, personally, like, with where I'm at in my counseling journey, I feel like there's just a lot of work that I need to still do in the therapy room.
Preach.
Before I'm ready to, like, start sitting down with the clients. I've had some low points over, like, the last year, definitely. And I thought I was in a great new place, and it's crazy how life just humbles you. It makes you realize, yeah, sorry, you're not ready. But at the same time, you'll never be ready. It's just making sure that I'm not bringing my own issues into the therapy room. And just from my relationships with people in my life, I know that there are still things that I need to work out, because there are still unresolved topics and feelings that arise from time to time. So yeah, but I feel like now we both have kind of like a basis for how we want to approach therapy. From this point forward, it's going to be just becoming like as much of an expert as possible within our respective theories and approaches and the methods that come with those approaches.
Absolutely. I feel like one thing that I've been hearing a lot is like for each therapist and for each therapy using like different theories, you have to practice what you preach. You have to be like healthy in your own way, in your theory's way, in a lot of ways. Because like for me, I have to be able to sit with my own emotions, you know?
Yeah.
Like if I can't sit with my own emotions of anger or like resentment or whatever, like I can't do that for somebody else. So I know for me, I definitely feel you there. Like I definitely need to do my own work. And now that I kind of have more like an idea of what I want my like overarching therapy theory to be, like now I got to start doing the work. I gotta be able to sit with that anger, because I definitely still have a lot of it. I still have like resentment. I still have shame. I still feel guilt. And definitely like one of the things that has been like present within my life is my inability to sit with those.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's why like Gestalt has called to me so much, because it challenges me to do those things that I know I need to work on.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah. Your own approach is challenging you.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, that's just how it is too. Like you're pulled to the theory that you feel like, or at least a lot of people are pulled to theories that help them.
Yeah.
And like by knowing how to help yourself, you have a better idea of how to help others.
Oh, for sure. And for the record, I think practicing what you preach is so difficult.
Oh, so difficult.
I am so good at giving advice to other people that I should probably just give to myself. But yeah, it's definitely very hard. we talk so much now as a society about mental health, about like self-care, about mindfulness, like doing meditation techniques, doing this and that. And I still have days where I just bed rot and like watch YouTube all day, right?
Yeah.
So it's very hard, but once I've been in rhythm and I've had that circuit before. It's great. It does help actually a lot. And I feel like we're learning so much from the professors because they're able to do that. Like from Eric, Leah, and Anna, I feel like all three of them, to whatever extent, like know how to practice what they preach and share with us like how they navigate, even their own lives, which I think is so beneficial for us as students. I feel like I look at them less as like just educational teachers and more as just like role models or mentors.
Yeah, and I think something that you kind of said during that is super important. Like, life ebbs and flows. Therapists are people too, and like we're gonna be going through stuff throughout our lives, and like we're probably gonna be needing to go and get therapy. Yeah. Like at so many times within our lives, we're probably gonna be in therapy ourselves, and we're gonna have to like work on it, and we're gonna continue working on ourselves. But like we owe it to our clients to like get to that point where we can help them and like work on ourselves.
Dude, I came into this program thinking, oh, I'm just going to become a master of emotions and I'm never going to be reactive again. I'm never going to feel anger again. And like, I was like, I'm finally not going to be crazy. What I've learned from so far, we're all crazy.
And it's all stigmas. It's all what society's telling us. Like, society's telling you can't be angry, but it's good to be angry. Like, that's passion, baby. That's what it's all about. Yeah. That's a driving force. You're angry for a reason.
For sure. And just the fact that, like, of not being so emotional. We have emotions for a reason. They serve as a purpose. There's very little about, like, our build as humans that doesn't serve us a certain purpose. And I think a big piece of this semester in particular is removing the negative connotation from anger, from fear, from anxiety, for sure. Like, not looking at them as negative emotions and looking at them as functional emotions, right? They're there for a reason to tell us, like, how we may truly think about something.
Because, like, imagine you're in therapy and you have a client get angry.
Yeah.
What are you going to tell them to stop?
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Actually, in here, we stay quiet. No, like, and that means you have to be okay with, like, maybe being yelled at or being yelled at, or, like, having people yell in a room that you're in. Yeah. And that's something that a lot of people struggle with. A lot of it's, like, past traumas or, like, like, people aren't comfortable, like, with those emotions, and, like, society tells us not to be.
Now, something that I want to address. As men, becoming comfortable with emotions and stepping away from logic, what is your progress with that?
That is such a good question. See, I feel like I'm illogical. I feel like a lot of my life, I've just kind of gone off vibes. Yeah. And, I think a lot of those vibes are emotions. And I couldn't quite put a name to them yet. So for me, of course I still think like logically and I still conceptualize things or whatever. But like, I think it's a little bit easier for me because my dad didn't really instill that in me at all. Like he didn't instill a lot of things in me, but like he's very much like a vibes kind of person. He's very much like a go with the flow kind of person. So for me, it's more like putting a name to emotions and putting a name to what I'm feeling because I've never had that before. I've never been able to really think about what my body is experiencing, what anxiety means to me and my body.
You've only ever felt it, but you kind of lack the identification aspect of it.
Yeah, and a lot of them get like intermingled. So like I have no clue what my emotions are until I started this program. So like, because like I feel like for me, like the emotions of anger and fear are so intertwined, but they're also so different. They're so individually identifiable. So like now that I kind of understand each one more, I can see when they're working together against me or for me.
Right.
So yeah, like emotions are hard.
They're extremely hard.
They're extremely hard.
A bit on just like being logical. I feel like growing up, that's what was taught to me, was like what makes your argument correct is if you just stay calm and present a logical argument, right? I really liked one of the TED Talks we got assigned, basically talking about like feminist approach and like why it's so stigmatized in certain areas of the world. And the speaker had said that logic is often just emotion that's wrapped in argument. But that to me like makes so much sense, because like just because you present something pretty doesn't mean you're correct, right?
I think a lot of people get caught up in like in an argument, like as long as you stay calm, you're right, which isn't true.
Exactly. And like if you're emotional, you're wrong, which is so backwards, because oftentimes like our emotions are guides for our thoughts and feelings about something, right? They tell us like what we really think about the world, and when we interpret our emotions, we're able to understand like, okay, where is this coming from, right? Like, why is this thing upsetting me so much? Why is this thing making me so happy? It's very intertwined with thought, and I think coming quote unquote logically is like you're separating the emotion, which then makes you more intellectual, which is a big issue within like mental health for men, of intellectualizing our emotions. You can't mansplain your feelings.